It's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now, the Labor Party have been caught out sneaking in pro-Labor Party propagandists or pro-Labor Party independent media, so-called independent media, or at the very least, media that they think they can manipulate to push the Labor Party propaganda. There's nothing wrong with the Labor Party dealing with and being interviewed by independent media, but when they're using government resources to do so, such as budget lockdown, which is meant to be for legitimate journalists, not Labor Party cronies, well, then there's an issue. The Labor Party wouldn't be inviting journalists who are critical of Labor Party to the budget lockdown, so why should they be inviting so-called journalists and independent media who are pro-Labor? I've just published an article on the issue, and it's titled Labor Party Paid New Media for Budget Propaganda. And it was published on the 27th of March 2025. And it starts off, the Labor Party have paid travel costs for YouTube creators, independent journalists, and so-called social media influencers who were selected by the party and government ministers and then given them preferential treatment not afforded other independent journalists. Only some of the 13 independent media had their travel costs paid, but all were given special treatment by being allowed into the federal budget lockup. What is the federal budget lockup? Wikipedia says, on budget day, but before the presentation of the budget, the Treasurer spends the day behind locked doors, briefing media and interest groups on various aspects of the budget. This is known as the budget lockup. Below is some of the reporting which outlines what happened, and at the end I'll outline the key issues of what an abuse of power it was for the Labor Party to do what they did. The Sydney Morning Herald published an article on the 26th of March 2025 titled Australian Labor Party Paid Content Creators Travel Costs for Budget, which starts off, the Australian Labor Party has compensated some of the social media influencers who covered the federal budget for their travel costs to Canberra after inviting them to attend the lockup as part of a campaign strategy to court prominent online voices. A sportswear brand ambassador and charity founder, Instagram finance advisors, and left-wing feminist influencers were part of the group who came to Canberra for the budget as part of the Labor strategy to court prominent online voices, reported by the Sydney Morning Herald earlier this month. One of the influencers told the Sydney Morning Herald that some of the 13 content creators with less financial resources had their travel costs to Canberra covered by the party, which is the Labor Party. This was confirmed by other sources familiar with the project. The financial support to influencers reveals further accessibility given to non-traditional forms of media, as federal Labor works to reach voters who use social media for their news consumption. The people invited to report on the budget were selected by the party and government ministers, sources confirmed. The Australian Financial Review reported on Wednesday that some influencers would also be allowed to travel with the Prime Minister as he campaigns for the upcoming election, widely expected to be called within days. The coalition has also sought to use influencers to spread its message. And there's nothing wrong with the Labor Party and the coalition, Liberal Party, National Party or others using independent media and so-called influencers to spread their message. The problem is when they're given special treatment or government resources or government accessibility to budget lockup is only given to them and not others. The article goes on to say, further background, which adds to how scandalous it is. The Sydney Morning Herald published an article on the 5th of March 2025 titled Soft Questions, Angry Comments. Albanese and Dutton hit the podcast campaign, which says, Abby Chatfield wasn't hiding her political allegiance. She said, my primary goal is to get the Labor government back into government, the influencer declared at the start of her interview with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese last month. The treatment shows why political parties are so eager to court influencers such as Chatfield, who became a star on The Bachelor and is now a broadcaster. They have their audiences, loyal followers, and reach people who aren't a political girly pop, in Chatfield's phrasing. It's little wonder that Albanese stayed with Chatfield's It's a Lot podcast for 90 minutes, half an hour longer than planned. But the connection people feel with influencers such as Chatfield, who has made avowedly left-wing politics core to her brand, comes with a risk for the stars. One supporter wrote, I'm raging that she's platformed a genocide complicit, FKWIT, you can interpret that, of a PM. One commentator wrote after Chatfield's Albanese interview, he used you, you idiot, the commentator said. Some key questions. One, How many of the independent journalists and or social media influencers are regularly critical of the federal Labor government? None, I'll bet. Number 2, how many of the 13 are confessed supporters of the Labor Party, such as Abby Chatfield? Number 3, what are the names of the Labor Party staff and government ministers who selected the 13 and what was the criteria to be selected? Number 4, were other political parties and independent politicians also allowed to invite their preferred independent media to the federal budget lockup? If not, why not? 5, how many taxpayer dollars were used to support the 13 independents when they were in Canberra and or at Parliament House? There are 2 key issues. Firstly, the Labor Party gave special treatment to journalists who they would regard as Labor Party friendly. And secondly, there would have been government dollars used to facilitate it, even if it was a small amount. One of the 13 invited was a website called Missing Perspectives, and they published a story about the trip and also raised the issue about payment and said, it goes without saying that it's really important that any media, creators, influencers or journalists invited continue to be really transparent about whether they accepted payment, flights or accommodation paid for, etc. Missing Perspectives is a newsroom, and because of that, we prioritise editorial independence and have a policy of declining any paid accommodation or transport for political coverage. The article goes on to say, at least Missing Perspectives were honest about payments, but I hate to tell them that if they were hard-hitting journalists, they would not have been invited by the Labor Party. You might think it is a minor issue, but as part of a deeper dive, this website and YouTube channel will be taking into the Labor Party playing dirty pool, trying to influence independent media just before the federal election. Now, could you imagine the Labor Party ever inviting me to Canberra to report on the federal budget or any issue? Of course not. Now, you might argue that's because I don't report on finance. I do. It's called financial fraud, which is a regular theme of this website when I write about corrupt politicians. Now, we all know how the Murdoch News Corp propaganda machine supports the Liberal Party and National Party during elections. So it's important to also look at the Labor Party, and they're trying to influence independent media, and it's not pretty, but more on that soon. And please do your bit to help shine a light on corruption by sharing this video on social media. And please hit the like and subscribe button and notification button. That way you get notified every time I publish a new video. And Kangaroo Court of Australia's independent media, I publish a website and a YouTube channel. And I'm 100% crowdfunded from viewers like yourself. So please support my Patreon account or PayPal account. You can donate any amount, $3, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 a month, whatever suits your budget. It all helps out in a big way. And the link for the Patreon account and PayPal account will be below this video on YouTube and also my website. Or you can go to my website for the donations page, which has other donation options. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.